What was your Big Dan takeaway when you saw the story on CNN and the Louis Free emails? There's a lot of different players in this. Joe Pa, Sandusky. You've got Tim Curley, the athletic director. You've got the vice president, Gary Schultz at Penn State. Before we start getting deeper into this, what is your big takeaway from what you thought you believe you saw in those emails?
Well, I think it was that clearly we now have the written proof that there was that they took Mike McQueary's statement seriously, that they believed that there was some level of a sexual assault, some kind of molestation. This was a serious situation, and they contemplated what would essentially have been doing the right thing. They planned to go to Child Welfare Services, which would have ended Jerry Sandusky's reign of terror, the second reported incident going in. They also insinuate they had an understanding of the 1998 incident, which we all thought, but that was kind of a confirmation. And they had a plan, and then it all reversed when Tim Curley, the AD, said he thought about it after he had spoken with Joe, presumably Joe Paterno. I think everyone thinks that Joe Paterno. So it shows, A, that there, at least with three of them, this is a serious, serious breach. And it confirms that Paterno at least may have had some further level of involvement in this.
Now, we know that Tim Curley, the athletic director, played for Joe Paterno. Did Joe actively hire him? How close? Did Joe basically tell Tim Curley, the athletic director, what to do all the time?
Well, I think that's going to be a matter of opinion on some of it, but I don't think it's a stretch to sit there and say Tim Curley worked for Joe Paterno, not Joe Paterno worked for Tim Curley. Joe Paterno was such a legend at that point. Tim Curley grew up just down the street of where Beaver Stadium is now, selling game programs, went to Penn State, worked at Penn State, was his hand-picked choice as the AD. This was his guy. He owed his career to Joe Paterno. Everybody sort of cowered in Paterno's way. So, again, here's the thing. You sit there and say, okay, they had a meeting. Well, either Curley lied and said they discussed it and they didn't, which would make no sense at the time that he would lie, but maybe he did. Or Paterno said, look, turn him in, and Tim Curley overruled him, and then Paterno never followed up. That seems highly unlikely. It's more likely that he talked with Paterno, changed course the other way, and said, hey, guys, I don't feel, he says in the email, I don't feel comfortable doing this. They wanted to keep this thing quiet. And they wanted to sit there and just say to Jerry Sandusky, hey, knock it off, Jerry, stop. That's not a criminal, but it's completely naive to the way that pedophiles act. They're not just going to stop. They need help, and they need to be taken off the street.
Dan Wetzel, Yahoo Sports, great columnist. When the reason, generally there's a reason. Often in life there's a financial reason. Paterno was never a guy that he didn't seem to be as driven by money as some coaches, but what would be the reason? Was it the winning, the wins, the total wins? Was it too much pride? It would tear down his program. I mean, what would Joe Pa be thinking that would lead him to don't turn this over to the Child Welfare Services? Well, why?
We may be asking that forever because Paterno's not here to defend himself or answer any kind of question like that. All I can do is go back to that moment. It's 2001. They come off a 5-7 season. He does not have a very good team. They're going to have losing seasons in 3 of the next 4 years. 75 years old. The calls to fire him, the grumblings that it's time for Joe Pa to retire, Joe must go, we're starting to really ramp up. And if you go back, you look at it now, and we sit there and say, hey, if they just turned Sandusky in 2001, they would have saved all of these other kids. You look at it now and say, oh, they're kind of like heroes. But at that time, imagine the story coming out that their former defensive coordinator, just retired 2 years, was molesting a boy in the shower room. And then you say, oh, yeah, Paterno has control of the program. No, you say, what is going on in the shower? Then the story would have come out that in 1998, Sandusky was investigated by the university police and nearly prosecuted for the exact same crime. So now you say, wait, there was already an allegation and you continued to allow this? I don't think it's out of the question to look at self-preservation, which is such a powerful motivator.
Does the NCAA get involved with Penn State football? Does this run parallel to kind of lack of institutional control here? Is it one of those instances to you, Dan?
It's definitely lack of institutional control, or it's too much institutional control. I don't know what the institution is other than the president, the AD, the iconic coach, the vice president who runs the cops. So this was an institution gone mad. Even if Paterno is somehow, if you can somehow find a way to exclude him in this, the other three it's all criminal behavior. Two of them already charged, the third might. They could all be behind bars. That's how serious it is. I'm a little torn on this. Part of me says, look, if you're gonna nail guys for getting tattoos and getting free pizzas off campus, you got to go after the serious stuff. The other part of it is, I sat through this entire trial. I've gone through all the attorney general work. This is real criminal investigations. This is serious stuff. I've also seen the kangaroo court that the NCAA runs, and it's it's arbitrary. You have no idea what's going on. It's unpredictable. And it's like, leave the serious stuff to the serious people and stay out of it. So I'm a little bit torn on this, but I don't think there's any question Penn State could face significant sanctions if the NCAA wants to step in on this.